Chancellor, I'll go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, Horned Frogs. Welcome to our final virtual town hall meeting of the summer. I'm Yana Chambers, Vice Chancellor and Chief Human Resources Officer, and I'll be your host for the next almost hour. And we have 6 panelists today for our call, as well as one of whom is Kathy Cavins-Toll, and to let you know, she is joining us from the road. So in case we have any technical difficulties, we have a backup plan. We have a plan B. We've had to go with a lot of plan Bs and Cs this semester for sure. Each cabinet member will be asked to give opening remarks and some updates of things going on in their area. This will be followed by answering questions that we received from you in advance. And if there's time, hopefully toward the end, we will have a live Q&A session. The Q&A feature will be open throughout the hour. So if you want to go ahead and submit any questions that you have now, we will have them in the box waiting to be answered should we have time. So our panelists today are Chancellor Boschini, Teresa Dahlberg, Provost and Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs, Jeremiah Donati, Athletics Director, Brian Gutierrez, Vice Chancellor of Finance and Administration, Kathy Cavins-Toll, Vice Chancellor of Student Affairs, and the head of the Chancellor's Fall 2020 Task Force for Campus Readiness. Chancellor, can we start with you, sir?
Sure. Thanks for doing this, Shana, and thanks everybody for joining. I see we have about 700 people so far, so that's great. Okay, first, I just wanted to, I hate this because you can't really see everybody. It's not like the opening luncheon or anything where it's so much nicer, but I want to thank everybody for their amazing work this summer. I think people have been working harder than ever before, and we always worked hard at TCU, but now we're working under more stress. And the weird thing about now is all our data points, I think they change literally every day. So thanks to everybody out there for the great work they've been doing to get us to this point to be ready to start the semester. This year, I'm going to focus on 3 things, and I'm calling them safety, sustainability, and justice. In the safety part, I think hopefully that's obvious. I want to do everything we can to make sure every member of our community is healthy and that we do any modifications we can to help do that. Bottom line, everyone's responsible for their own health and safety. And you have to take care of that and do what you think is best. But we also need to do a lot of different things on campus to help make that happen. And so I think we are. On the sustainability, I'm continuing to work with everyone on campus and especially our cabinet on making sure that TCU is here for another 150 years. We've almost been 150 years almost now, and I want to make sure we make it another 150. And we have a lot of unknowns still coming into the fall for our short-term sustainability, and we have a lot of unknowns for our long-term sustainability too. And then on justice, I want to focus on making our campus a welcoming environment for all. And I think we have work to do in that area, and we're working on that. And I think we'll continue working on that. We have a couple really neat projects we're about to announce. The provost is going to announce one of them, and I think those will help us on the path towards doing this. So I'm going to stop there and turn it back over to Vice Chancellor Chambers. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Dahlberg, will you provide some opening remarks, please?
Sure. I just want to say 3 things. First, a big thank you. We have only 30 faculty still completing their Kaler Center training. So by the first day of class, we will have had just about all of our full-time faculty complete Kaler Center hybrid course training and redesign their courses to be taught virtually or in dual mode. I don't know of any other large university in the country who has aspired to do this. Second, I want to express my continued commitment to academic excellence. The pandemic restricts us from fully pursuing all of our mission critical work, such as field research and community engagement. And the pandemic, though, it won't last forever, and neither will these restrictions. So while budget restrictions are imperative and we will likely not be able to always continue doing things the way they've always been done. We remain committed to the teacher-scholar model, to keeping our student-faculty ratio to 14:1 or better, and to maintaining at least 80% of our student credit hours as being taught by full-time faculty, as an average across campus, which is what we have right now. I'm confident in our ability to be flexible and innovative as we work together to continue to maintain our excellence. And third, I'm very excited about the Race and Reconciliation Initiative that's being launched. It was already announced, a big announcement is going to come, I think, next week or before on the first day of class, to kind of tell you who were the main people involved initially. I think there was a question about support of this effort, and the chair of the initiatives is being provided for this year a course release, as well as a generous stipend, a full-time graduate assistant. Dr. Karen Steele, who's working this year as a provost special assistant, is devoting 50% of her time to support implementing and pushing things forward on the project and supporting as needed. Central marketing and communications team, as well as the central IT team, are provided needed support as needed for marketing and communications, as well as technology. The chair is being given a $50,000 discretionary fund just to use as however is needed to support the efforts and the work, travel, visiting, eating, things like that. And administrative support is being provided from my office. So that's all I have for now. Thanks, Yana.
Thank you, Teresa. I'll turn next to Kathy. Thanks for joining us from the road.
Oops. Okay, so my video has been disabled by the host is what it says, but I am on my way to pick up a child from camp who's been there for 2 weeks. So thanks for being, there we go. They're gonna let me start my video. Okay, well, anyway, thanks for being flexible with me. And we've been working all summer, since March, really to triage COVID and to prepare for what is coming next Monday as we gear up and scale up our efforts to welcome back our students. And we have had students here all summer and have been practicing our testing and tracing. And so scaling that up starting Monday with our first year students coming to us, and we'll be, I think we're ready to go. Now, I know that yesterday we released our pledge email and video, and I think that that's a good start for all of us, in that, as the chancellor says, we're all responsible for ourselves and for our community. And so I'm excited to get started on Monday.
Great. Thank you, Kathy. I appreciate that. Brian Gutierrez.
I am starting video. There we go.
Okay.
Thank you, Yana. And I want to thank everyone as well, both the colleagues that I work with every day and also each of you throughout the campus, for everything that everybody is doing. This is just an unprecedented moment in time, but there's been so much amazing work that's been done. It's been awesome just to be a part of this, as difficult as this is. I want to reiterate the Chancellor's remarks about finances and budget. Our focus is sustainability of the university, both in the near term and the long term. And as things unfold, we'll have a better understanding of this year's challenges. As you've heard us say before, we're watching those key indicators, bill payments, which are coming up the 10th of August, enrollment, 12th class day enrollment, and whether or not we have to return to 100% online as we did in the spring semester because of COVID-19. And of course, we're also watching athletics and whether or not we'll be able to play all of our seasons. At this time, we're developing a comprehensive plan for both the near and the long term, and it will address the financial implications, the shortfalls, and the needs that we will have as we work forward. And in short order, we'll have these details to share with you. Thank you, Yana.
Great. Thank you, Brian. I appreciate it. Okay, so last but not least, athletics.
Thanks.
Jeremiah?
Thank you. Good to be with you all, albeit virtually. And so I guess a couple things. As you all know, the Chancellor created a return to campus task force. And our charge in athletics was really two things. One, bringing back our student athletes safely. And two, the large gatherings, large event, game day management, if you will. So I'll touch on those two things really quickly, and then happy to answer any questions in the Q&A portion. But first and foremost, as has been stated before, the health and safety of our student athletes, our staff and coaches is our top priority. And I want to give a big shout out to Dr. Michelle Kirk, our team physician, and David Gable, our head trainer, who have really done an unbelievable job ensuring that we can bring our student athletes back safely. As Kathy said a moment ago, many of our students have been here this summer. As you know, they do train over the course of the summer, and so we brought them back in a phased approach, similar to what we've done with our workforce that Jana has led that initiative. So we've got football that's been back since mid-June, soccer, who started a couple weeks ago, and volleyball and cross country. And so far things have gone pretty well. I'd say we're learning a lot. This is a very fluid situation, and the testing protocols and the health and safety protocols are changing pretty rapidly. So I'm very pleased with where we are. We do know there are challenges ahead, and there are many headwinds. There's a lot of unknown. That seems to be the mantra for this COVID era. And so we're taking the advice of our medical professionals, which is to proceed cautiously and constantly reevaluate. And so we're going to be able to adapt to what's coming. So the second thing that I'd like to touch base on is game day and what that looks like. As will come as no surprise, game day will look a lot different this year. And for now, in this context, I'm just referring to football. We have a lot of different game days, but we're used to having 35 to 45,000 people in the stadium, in Amon Carter Stadium, and that will not be the case this year. The governor has allowed us to have up to 50% capacity. However, that doesn't allow us to properly socially distance. And so we will be at more like a 25% capacity for this year. And of course, that is subject to change. So the Big 12 Conference has actually condensed most of the competitive schedules for the fall. I'm sure you've seen that we've had a couple games canceled in football, but we are prepared to play September 12th. We realize that is over a month away, but we'll be ready to go. So I'll just end with one positive as I look out the window here. Totally un-game day related, but DE&I related. We have a young student athlete named Kelton Hollins, who about a month ago approached the Chancellor and I about creating a street mural with End Racism in capital letters that we thought was a wonderful idea. This is a very thoughtful young man, and today they unveiled the mural. So when you come to campus, I hope you'll stop by and see it. Thanks, Tiana.
Sure, thank you, Jeremiah. And a couple things from Human Resources before I get to the questions that you submitted previously. First of all, thank you to everyone on this panel, as well as all of you who are participating through listening today. I thank you very, very much for your contributions to the plans for employees, and your constant feedback is helpful for us because things are constantly changing. So thank you for that. I know there's questions about, you've heard there is an upcoming voluntary incentivized retirement plan, and there is, and we will be getting that information out and providing additional information on that in the next couple weeks. And also go ahead and address the working from home or remote work, because some folks aren't necessarily home, but remote work. We do have questions about that as well. We'll be providing further guidance and as more information continues to come in from the school systems in the area as well. So, so I just want to make sure that I provide that information to you as an opening remark for Human Resources. So let's go ahead and jump into the questions. And Kathy, I'm going to start with you. And one of the questions submitted is, what is the threshold for deciding whether or not to open or close the campus due to the pandemic? I know we have a general statement that we're going to follow the recommendation of county or state or federal guidelines, but do we have a threshold? What can you tell us about that?
Okay, so there's a lot of things that we look at every day. So first of all, our Director of Emergency Management and our Health Center Director meet every day with our local Tarrant County officials, and they talk about what's happening on our campus and in our community, and then that group meets with an incident management team also to assess needs happening on campus. So that's a terrible picture. Sorry, y'all. Anyway, so here are a lot of things that we look at. So the first one is the incidence and the prevalence of COVID on campus in Fort Worth and in our region. And so the number of cases and the number of deaths have an influence on our decision making. The second thing is the percentage of positive tests in our area. Especially as we begin to fill our campus, understanding the spread of the virus in groups, living units, that kind of thing is important for us to know. Third thing, percentage of cases linked to known cases. So as we do tracing, we need to know from where is this person getting sick. And so the more we know about the known case, that's a good thing. And so when we don't know where it's starting, we believe that the spread is something that's uncontrolled. So those are concerns for us. And the fourth thing is hospital stress. So this age group is not likely to have the kind of, they get sick, but they don't get as sick as some of the older people or people with immune compromised. But if we have a lot of people on our campus that are ill, we have to assume that we have the hospital capacity to treat them. So the hospital stress. And then there's a whole bunch of other things on our campus that we will assess every day, and we have been assessing. And so there's like 9 of them, so I'm going to read them. The first one is our community cooperation. So we are asking our students to wear masks, our students, faculty, and staff to wear masks, to physically distance, to wash their hands and have good hygiene, all of that. Cooperation for the things that help keep us safe, important. Second thing, the efficacy of our prevention methods. So we're doing a lot, and we'll continue to do a lot of prevention. So whether or not that's effective. Third, testing capacity. So testing capacity, tracing capacity. Right now we have 70 people trained to do tracing. So the capacity for us to do the tracing, given the size of our population, treatment capacity, quarantine capacity. We have a plan for how people will quarantine those students who live on campus and in groups. And then also our isolation beds, that having enough beds for those who are diagnosed with COVID. When therapies and vaccines come, what's the availability to that? Federal, local policies, state policies. And then the last thing that we look at is what is happening in other places in the Metroplex. So those are all of the things that are in our matrix. But it's hard to say that there are exact metrics. It's kind of a landscape and a picture every day.
Thank you, Kathy. Another question is, are we going to consider testing every student and employee for COVID-19 on the first week of school to get a baseline of the overall health of our community?
We are not. It is not recommended by the CDC that colleges and universities do that. And I know that there are some schools doing that. There's a lot of reasons why that is sort of more theater and less effective, and because it's just a snapshot, and also that it is it's just hard to enforce getting that done. And the CDC says the best that we can do is work on our prevention methods, and we are. And so we're spending our time and our energies in trying to get people committed to the prevention.
Thank you, Kathy. What about our HVAC systems? So folks are asking questions about recirculated air and is our air clean? What can you tell us about that?
Okay, I have to read a response from our physical plant on the air quality because I know it at a 50,000 foot response, but not, I don't know the details about HVAC, but so here, this is what I know from our physical plant. So, so we've reduced, okay, so our physical plant staff talk about all the things that we are doing in terms of density, reducing space density, physical distancing, cleaning and disinfecting, all the sanitation stations, face covering, all of that. There isn't any evidence that COVID or the coronavirus is spread through systems, and so so we have good and effective systems, and at this point there isn't any evidence to move us to a different kind of filtration system.
Okay, great, thank you. Now, what about visitors? How are we going to, oh, Brian, did you have something you wanted to add?
He probably does.
I can get the technology worked out here. Yeah, I think it's important to note that the technology that's in place also allows for the blending of external air and inside air. And as many of us have read, I'm sure all of you have been watching this information in the media. There's building operators are working to bring in more fresh air without compromising the quality of the air inside the building. And so fresh air is a really important factor in blending into the flow of air through the systems within our buildings. And then of course, I also know, and Kathy, we've talked about this, there are many technologies that are currently being developed. And so we have our eye on those technologies as well. So we just want to make you aware that we're mindful of the things that we can do immediately. And then we also are watching the technologies that are out there in the event that something becomes very well established and proven to make a difference in many respects with regard to air quality.
So that's a better answer for sure.
Thanks, Brian. In the interest of time, Kathy, I do have one more question for you. And since I'm MC, I get to pick. So what about visitors? How are we going to handle visitor policy and things like that?
So we are not hosting any activities on our campus this academic year that bring in out visitors in large groups. So homecoming, family weekend, those things have been canceled for this year. But there are some things on our campus that are critical to our sustainability and mission, like admission visits. And so we've been having admission visits and tours since June 22nd. And the admission office has done a great job at creating some alternative approaches and locations for students to check in and do their admissions visits and tours. So that has been working for us, and we'll continue to do that.
Thank you, Kathy.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's move to some of the finance questions that we had that were submitted. And all right, Brian, so where does TCU stand with its cost saving initiatives? And could you give us some examples?
Sure, thank you, Yana. So first, just let me remind everybody that every day the picture is becoming clear. And as I said earlier, we're looking at enrollment levels, bill pays, financial aid, demand for financial aid, and whether or not we're online 100% for instruction. These are all factors along with our athletic seasons that we're monitoring. And so as we see these things unfold, things become more clear. At the moment, we think that our total shortfall this fiscal year is about $90 million. But of that shortfall, $65 million is the direct result of an increase in recurring financial aid expense. So really $65 million is what we're focused on. And that's where our effort and energy is on a recurring basis. So we're working to develop budget savings to offset the increase in financial aid, and some examples, was asked to give some examples about some of the savings that have been achieved. These savings come from unfilled positions, benefits restructure, lower travel expenditures, shuttle service operations, and at the moment, as the number of people on campus are few or fewer, the shuttle system is going to operate with less service, so we'll save money there. Lower, as I said, lower travel. These types of things are what we're working on, and we'll have more information on all of this in coming days.
Thanks, Brian. What about the hotel, the new hotel on Berry? Here in HR, we've had kind of a front row seat to watch that going live. Is TCU going to receive revenue from that? Have we had to spend money in the building of that?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so the lease is a ground lease. The developer came in and is paying the university money each year to lease the ground. We participate not only from a ground lease that escalates over the life of the lease. It's a 50-year base lease with 2 10-year renewals. And then we also participate in the profitability of the hotel operation as it moves forward in time. But more importantly, we get an amazing asset on our campus that will allow the parents who come visit students and the students with their parents as they visit the university, easy access to the university, and including places for conferencing and meetings that will happen throughout the academic areas, the student areas, athletics. So this is really going to be a great space, a great amenity on our campus that did not come at a cost from TCU to support the construction. And again, as I said, we'll participate in the revenue flow. So that's exciting and helpful. I also think it's important to point out that students will be able to get jobs at the hotel. They'll be able to learn about the hotel hospitality industry and service industry. And so I think there are many things that will be featured at the hotel that not only provide great services and great amenities, but also great experiences.
That's great. Another benefit that we thought about too on our side is that it will be a place for applicants. Once we begin recruiting folks, that we'll be able to host our applicants who come there.
Absolutely.
Okay, another question about the 990 form. It's a very specific question. And so before you actually respond, maybe for our listeners who are not familiar with what a 990 form is, just a brief description of that. But specifically, this question is that TCU was running surpluses, revenues over expenses, every year since 2012. 124 million in 17, 145 million in 18. Where did all that excess money go, Brian? And now that we're having a one-time $50 million expected, well, you said 95 earlier, and a massive budget cuts. Tell us more about that. Where's that money going?
Thank you. So first, the 990 is a complicated tax form that has been developed over the years, and I think our tax form, our 990, exceeds 100 pages. There's a lot of information, and some of that information is actually financial information that's reported on multiple occasions. So in other words, it could be reported one year and then show up as an expense could show up twice, essentially, just based on the way cash flows. So I'm sorry to get into that kind of detail, but the 990 is confusing. However, the 990 generally gives you a good idea of what's happening within the university, even though there are all these tax issues associated with it. So the numbers that were cited are good numbers, except that they include giving that either went to capital construction or the endowment. And so those types of things don't flow into the university's operating budget to sustain salaries generally. Again, I'm talking specifically about gifts that go directly into the endowment or gifts that go directly into capital construction. You report them on the 990, but they don't pay for paper clips and pencils, et cetera. So those numbers are good coming from the 990. Those are correct sightings. And I think in the 2 years that were mentioned, in each of those years, we had $70 million or more of capital giving to, again, construction or to the endowment. So when you cull those out, the surpluses are lower, but still they're significant. These are significant surpluses. Now, if we step back and look around the university and see all the capital construction, it is fair to say that a large amount of those surpluses has supported the capital construction around the university since 2012, and even going back earlier than that. So when you combine surpluses and borrowed funds, you're able to get, you begin to see how much capital is invested around the campus. And just since 2012, we've had 9 academic buildings enhanced or built during that period of time. We've had 5 housing projects that student housing that have been completed, and then you add to the 5 the Greek Village. We've had 2 wonderful activity spaces that have come online for students, and then of course we've had the football stadium and the basketball arena. So just a lot of capital activity over that period of time, supported in large measure by surpluses and borrowed funds.
Great, thank you, Brian.
Oh, Yana, could I just add one more thing?
Sure.
Just really clear. If I said $95 million is our budget deficit for this fiscal year, I'm sorry, I meant $90 million. We are focused on, of that 90, $65 million due to the increase in financial aid.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the clarification. In the interest of time, let's continue with some of our questions, and I will let folks know that those questions we didn't get to of those submitted, we will be providing those later, as well as any questions submitted in the Q&A. So Teresa, I have a question for you. What is being done to address the technology needs of our instructors, our faculty who will be teaching off campus, from off campus?
Okay, thanks, Shauna. So as part of the TCU Connected Campus Plan, oh wait, my lights are going out, sorry. New building. The deans are responsible for verifying that all employees are able to work remotely. So you're expected to have your own high-speed internet access, and you're allowed to take your work computer home. However, we do have faculty who are teaching remotely, but they prefer the technology and the internet access provided on campus. So they're being scheduled to deliver their courses from private classrooms. So long story short, if you aren't getting what you need, please consult your dean.
Thank you, Teresa. Chancellor, it'd be nice if administration would offer some thanks for teaching in person rather than creating maybe more challenging aspects or putting legalese into syllabi. And requirements for contingency plans or dual delivery. What about a simple thanks?
Thank you to everyone who's teaching on campus, seriously. And to everyone who's teaching in general, thank you to everyone who's working on campus. Because I think a lot of people forget that there are a lot of people that work around here that don't teach, that if we don't have them working, we can't open campus. So yeah, thank you to everybody. Thank you very much. From the bottom of my heart, thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, back to you, Teresa. Based on comments from previous town halls, the administration seems to conflate the quantity of job applicants with the quality. faculty morale is exceptionally low right now, according to this writer. How will the administration begin to repair the damage that's been done?
So, okay, so I care very much about faculty and staff morale, and I'm committed to listening, continue listening and collaborating. I meet very regularly with Faculty Senate leadership, and I engage them in just about everything that I do or consider doing. I've also committed to engage more directly with department chairs, and as I've already announced, I appointed Joanne Green, who's the leader of the Chairs Council this year, to the Provost Council, and just had a meeting with the Chairs Council last week. I also want to be just really straightforward. The pandemic and the related crash of the US economy is unprecedented for almost all of us who are alive today, certainly is for me. TCU has been super fiscally healthy, but it's still not possible to shield all of our employees from feeling some of the effects that all the other Americans are feeling right now. So our movements are being restricted, our work resources are being reduced, and our personal finances are being impacted. So we have to work together to work through these things, and I'm confident that we will do so. So while the nature of COVID-19 and the resulting challenges require me to share news that is not always positive, I'm committed to maintaining open lines of communication as we work through this global challenge together.
Thank you, Teresa. Chancellor, one for you before we go to Q&A. This one's a little near to my heart. Would it be possible if we could have Go Purple Fridays to be denim or jeans Fridays on campus? It'd be a great way to show our school spirit.
That would be fine with me. I think yeah, HR, let's work that out. That's wouldn't bother me at all.
All right, great. Thank you very much. And then before we go to the live Q&A that we have of those submitted, I've been asked to provide what resources are available to our employees who've been exposed or contracted COVID at work. Certainly these resources are listed on Human Resources, on Keep Working, on remote work sites, but as well as the university's COVID site. We do have COVID hotlines where employees can report symptoms or positive tests. Kathy mentioned earlier the contact tracers. They're doing an outstanding job. For our Spanish-speaking employees, we have our hotline also has employees staffing that who are Spanish speakers and can provide assistance as well. I also encourage employees to reach out to the Employee Assistance Program. Each of us as employees receive 5 visits just through our Employee Assistance Program and their televisits. You can do televisits, which are great. And sometimes you just need a safe space to talk about what's going on. And if you have, if you're working remotely while trying to manage young humans in your home, it can be challenging. So I do strongly encourage that you reach out to the EAP if necessary. All right, so, okay, panel. Here's a couple of questions that are coming in. Someone asked, where can we see the mural? I guess the Black Lives Matter mural. Jeremiah?
Yeah, yes, right outside of Schulmeyer Arena and Stadium Drive. So what we would normally call Frog Alley. And you can't miss it. Come on over and see it.
That's fantastic. I did have someone ask, can employees go over there anytime and participate and be a part of this as well?
Yes, and we're trying to keep people at social distance. So, if you can come over this week, we'd love to have you. So, and there's a place where you can sign the mural as well. And so we can reach out to athletics, but you'll see people over there. And as long as you've got a mask on and you're socially distanced, we'd love to have you.
Thank you. Another question for any of our panelists, because there are a variety of activities going on right now on campus. What is TCU doing to facilitate the race ethnic discussions on campus?
Well, I can say something about the Race and Reconciliation Initiative. So I can't tell you exact discussions right this minute, but I can tell you the the person who's been identified as chair in the initial small group that have been working on it are going to come right out with a set of gatherings and engaging people. I just love their approach, because it's not going to be one of those initiatives where you have like a committee go work in the back room for a year and then come out with some recommendations, but rather there's going to be a committee of 15 people that will then engage broadly by having 7 subcommittees who will then engage with those committees, but then also hold different events and discussions and all kinds of things to get the conversation going now and start getting recommendations and feedback now and as the year goes on. So, you know, hopefully like right around the first day of class, we're gonna hear at least another step forward.
Thank you. Are there any other panelists who would like to add to that?
Oops, sorry, I do.
Okay, thanks, Kathy.
There we go. Nope, I can't see my, oh. Okay, there we go. So there are lots of things that we do on a regular basis to talk about race and inclusion with our students. And it starts, we have a whole plan for how we layer these messages of values in. It starts with the orientation, it moves on through Frog Camp, it moves on through the Frogs First program. Well, this has been an interesting year because we did online orientation, but there was a module that was added just as it was added for faculty and staff. It was added for students to look at issues of inclusion and understand. We are bringing, as the students check in this week for when they move into the residence halls, they'll go through Frog Camp, and we will be addressing some of our, it's only a day and a half instead of 3 days, but we are going to get at those exercises that are important for us in setting the tone for our community. And then I know that diversity and inclusion in our university life classes, and our faculty have created some structure to do the core curriculum. So that's another opportunity. We know that lots of opportunities for us to structure some ways for students to talk about what they want for also on our campus. And so Student Affairs is working on some programming for the fall that allows students to lend their voice to some conversations about diversity.
Thank you, Kathy. I know this question, we talked about this. So this would either, I guess, be for Kathy or the Chancellor, because I know that we've spoken about this once before. And the question specifically is, has TCU spoken with local or state officials as to regarding our priority or when vaccines may be available? Have we placed our order yet?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Kathy and I have both talked about this, but the answer is yes and yes. But go ahead, Kathy. You can explain the details.
Well, as much as we can do,
yeah,
as much as we can do that, and I don't know what any of that means, and things will be distributed or whatever, but we have a great relationship with our local and regional public health officials. So
on about the 3rd day of March, after the kids were gone, I talked to her about this, and I asked, I want to order 14,000 doses of the vaccine. But it's like she's saying, because everything changes so often, we don't know what's going to happen when they do come up with the vaccine, how the government's going to distribute it, how healthcare will distribute it. But we're definitely in line as soon as we can get there for it.
Right.
Great. Thank you. This is a question that for folks working in open office floor plans, are those individuals expected to wear a face covering all day, every day, unless they're eating or have a medical reason not to? And I know that's probably a combination Kathy, Yana question. I believe that our initial guidance was if you are able to practice physical distancing of 6 feet or more, and you will be in an area that is a more open area, that wearing a face covering the entire time may not be necessary. However, you know, the guidance changes as we know more about the virus. I believe our recent face covering policy listed something about keeping your mask on or your face covering on at all times. So I do think that it's very difficult for us to give like a blanket guidance when areas are so different. Kathy?
I think you're right. And we've been working in the new building now, and people have really done a good job, I think, of using their face covering, especially if they're walking by other people, if they're running to the restroom, if they're going to have a meeting down the hall or whatever. And honestly, I think that the group has already moved in has done a really good job of being conscientious about that. And so I think that it's harder to say black and white, yes or no, you don't have to do that. But I think you have to look at the distance, and are you mostly working alone, or when as people come to you, do you put your mask up?
Mask up, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how we do. Our office area is open, and we have somewhat of a rotating schedule. Not everyone is here at the same time, and we've worked really hard. We've even moved some folks around so that folks who are here at the same time, who were previously closer together, are now in areas that are a little further apart. So I think that as folks begin to return kind of full force on campus, that will be something that we can help, or our facilities can help, and our director of emergency management can assist with spacing. Yep. So another question is, will administrative buildings be open for campus? I mean, for students, will our administrative buildings be open to the students?
Yes, on Monday, starting Monday, as our students move in, our administrative buildings and our academic buildings will be open for students.
Great, thank you. Brian Gutierrez, BG, here's a question. What are our plans if, for example, I've used the term scatter, but if we go back fully online again, or we're unable to have game days, what's going to be the impact and severity of those to our campus, to our employees, to what we have on campus now?
Okay, good question. So right now, at the moment, things are looking pretty good. You heard from Athletic Director Jeremiah Donati with respect to how the football season, for example, is going to play out. And we've been working closely with Jeremiah Donati and Kenneth Yannick to incorporate those assumptions into our financial planning. So at the moment, we feel very good about where we are and don't expect the consequences that otherwise would be a challenge for us if, for example, we couldn't complete the football season or something like that. The university has also resources which we're tapping into, and there was a question that was brought up earlier about some resources. They've heard that the university's borrowed resources, and what are we doing with that? Well, in this case, we're using some of that to offset the types of losses this year that we don't expect to be recurring. But I want to reiterate that we are going to have a $65 million increase in financial aid that is going to be recurring. So we're making sure that we distinguish between one-time situations versus recurring situations. And so again, right now, we feel pretty confident about where we stand. We think that we have great plans in place and look forward to rolling out our financial assumptions and budget plans, working with everybody across the university, and not having to deal with all the bad things that are happening, but certainly having the resources and the plans to put in place if such should occur.
Thank you, Brian. And now, with just a few minutes left, I want to hand it back to the Chancellor for some closing remarks. And thank you all very much for participating today.
I want to thank everybody for participating. I also want to thank Jana for leading this. That was great. I also want to say one more thing. If you want to go over and sign the End Racism banner, we're going to encourage anyone who wants to do that. Just look at the TCU Today, and there's a space there to sign up for it. And like my office, our time is tomorrow from 1:20 to 1:50. So if you want to do that, that'd be great. So thanks, everybody. Stay healthy and keep feeding these great ideas to us because we need them. God bless.